All right, people, it's time for saxophone lesson 2. What you'll need is take your reed out of its case. Sometimes in a brand new saxophone case from a music store, say, they'll put the reed on the mouthpiece already. You might find it on the reed already, on the mouthpiece already. So in that case, it's already set to go, but you don't want to leave it there after we finish because the moisture back there can start to grow mold and it can get you sick. So you don't want to do that. You never want to leave a reed on a mouthpiece. You always want to take it off, always, always, because you don't want to get sick. So, but if it is in the case of the reed case, and by the way, a good reed for beginners is like a Van Door number 2. It's a good reed that just responds really easily for a beginning embouchure, the way you hold your mouth. So you take the reed out of the case and maybe put it in a small cup of water, and you're going to keep this little plastic case to put it back in after you finish to protect the reed, and so it can dry out properly and just keep it from chipping. By the way, the tip of this reed is very, very delicate, so you don't want to chip it. You want to be very careful with it. These things are $2 a piece or more. So you'll take it out of that little plastic piece, that plastic case right there, and save it. You may want to take a Sharpie and write on there the date that you started using it, because they do wear out after a while. And what I mean by wearing out is the way when they're brand new, they're held out from the mouthpiece just a little bit so that there's a gap in between so that there can be vibrations to produce sound. Eventually, the bamboo here, this reed, it just gets worn out to where it just collapses towards the reed and you can't get a sound out. You start getting squeaks and such. But I like to soak the reed, especially when you're using it for the first time. But I like to soak my reed every time, for me personally, in a cup of water. This is an oboe soaker cup for that, but you can use any kind of cup. And I just let it soak for about 2 minutes. And then if you're the reed on the gooseneck, this little section right here, if it is dry, you may want to take some cork grease out of your case and just put a small amount on there to get that well lubricated, keep it from getting dried out to where it might crack off of the gooseneck. You don't want that because it's expensive, about $15 to get it replaced to put back on there. So you want to take care of this little section right there. And be careful not to bend this octave key mechanism. When I hold it, I try to hold it so that I'm not gripping that or bending that. Don't want that at all. Notice right here how I'm holding the gooseneck as I'm putting the mouthpiece on. And that's what you want to do next. After you get this cork grease on, you'll put that mouthpiece on with the table of the mouthpiece, the flat side, facing the same direction as the opening of the gooseneck. Then you want to put that reed on there after you say you let it soak for 2 minutes right here. Then you're going to let it soak and then take it out of the cup and put it on the mouthpiece. And notice that there's a pencil thin line of the black mouthpiece above that reed. And that's what you want. And I've placed the ligature with the ligature screws facing towards me, facing towards the right. And just put that on there. Notice that the ligature goes below where the bamboo is shaved. From here on up, the bamboo has been shaved. From right here, you see the bark of the bamboo. And so, and once you get it in a place you feel like it's just right, then you go ahead and tighten these ligature screws down. But don't tighten them too much because sometimes the quality of these screws is not too good and they'll snap right in two. If that ever happens to you, just put your good screw at the top, tighten it down, and it'll get you by. But you do need to eventually get another ligature screw or just a whole another ligature, and they can be bought for cheap ones can be bought for $4 to $6. All right, but you'll put that on there. You got your whole mechanism that we're going to use for this lesson. And a lot of times I do with my band students, I just do mouthpieces only, which means for you, you'd use your gooseneck and your mouthpiece so that it'll have a somewhat a pleasant sound. The pitch that it will play is like the A right above middle C on a piano, or right down here, I showed you the pitch on the fully assembled saxophone. It'll produce this pitch. But how do you get a sound? How do you form your embouchure? And I took a picture of myself here. Notice that I've got all my lip muscles flexed against my teeth. I'm not puffing my cheeks. There's no way to get a good sound puffing your cheeks. But I'm gonna basically I roll my bottom lip under just a little bit, just barely enough to cover the bottom teeth to serve as a pad between my teeth and this reed so that it's not vibrating right on my teeth. That would be unpleasant. So it's just right there, just a little bit, not a lot, because if you do, it'll roll up and you'll just basically mute this whole reed and you won't be able to get a sound at all. So just enough to cover the bottom lip, and that's all you want. Then I'm going to put my two top teeth on top of the mouthpiece right here. And I did take a picture with this my little pen right there, showing you about where you would put your two top teeth, sitting right there. And you won't roll your bottom lip, or your top lip under, just the bottom lip. But the two top teeth will actually rest on the mouthpiece, believe it or not. And it's not unpleasant at all. At all, it's fine. And then so I've got my, you see this picture right here. I've got my bottom lip rolled under just a little bit, and with the corners of my mouth, I'm sealing off around this mouthpiece. And also, I'm going to take these two corners of my bottom lip right here to kind of seal off the reed here on the sides as I play. And then finally, I'll take my tongue to start a note. I'll take my tongue and just go ta, ta, ta as I blow. So let's go through that process right now. I'm going to roll my bottom lip under. I've been talking so much, my reed's dried out. I'm going to roll my bottom lip under just a little bit. My two top teeth are going to rest right here. I'm going to take the corners of my mouth, seal off the reed on the side, and I'm going to put about that much of the mouthpiece inside of my mouth, and then I'll start each note with a tongue. I'll continuous airstream from the diaphragm, but I'll just interrupt that airstream by basically just touching this reed to stop the vibration, which stops the sound. And so I'll just control it with the tongue. It'll be like a last little control valve. So here we go. Bottom lip under, top teeth on the mouthpiece. Now I'm going to take my tongue and go ta, 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 ta. Right? So just a continuous airstream, taking my tongue just the very tip of my tongue touching right here, not on the edge, that would sting, but just right here because it's vibrating really fast. So da 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 da. Now, if you're trying it and all of a sudden this is all you get, no sound. That means you've got only just a little bit and you're clamping off the end. What you want to do is put a little more mouthpiece inside of your mouth, and you'll get a sound. Also, if you get like a squeaking sound, that means you probably have way too much mouthpiece in your mouth, and you just basically pull out to that sweet spot of balance where you have just enough in there, and you'll have to experiment, and then you'll be able to just know, you'll just feel when it's the right amount. Now, if you'll remember from lesson 1, we talked about whole notes that last for 4 beats and 4/4 time signature. So that will last for 4 beats. You tongue this note and hold it, let the air flow and the sound to vibrate for 4 beats. Then you start this next note, which is a half note. It looks like a whole note, but it's got a stem, making it a half note for 2 beats. And here's a half note rest for 2 beats. 2 beats of sound, 2 beats of silence. 2 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats of silence. And then these are quarter notes, as if you'll remember. They're solid on the inside and with the stem, and they get 1 beat apiece. And then here you go. Here's a half note again. So, and this is the fingering for the fully assembled saxophone for this pitch right here. That's the octave key on the back, and the fingers of the left hand, 1, 2, 3, and of course the middle finger of the right hand. But here we go. We're going to play this whole note for 4 beats, then a half note for 2 beats, and a half note rest for 2 beats, and so forth. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 3, 4. Right, and then we start off with 2 quarter notes, ta ta ta, etc. 1, 2, 3. Now, another thing, if you hear like a da, 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 that means you're starting off with a weak embouchure and then firming up your embouchure. You don't want to do that. You want it to be very still as you're tonguing each one of these notes. Super important. Listen to this very carefully. You do not want to move your jaw because then you'll get that dwa, 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 and people will look at you. and think and wonder about you. You don't want that. So you just want just a solid pitch. And that's why we do this drill with just the mouthpiece and the gooseneck only. And the other band instruments like the clarinets will be using their mouthpiece and barrel only, the trombones and trumpets. You want to have just a beautiful sound. And as I'm playing, I can have kind of a thin sound by closing off the inside of my mouth, like but if I open up the inside of my mouth, oh, it'll have a more open, resonant sound. And that's what you want. And that will be amplified even more as you put the rest of the saxophone body together with it. So you want to have an open sound. You can take a very nice saxophone and play with a closed off sound. You want to have the inside of your mouth open. And the same principles, except just I've dropped the tongue to the bottom of my mouth and it's like a yawning sensation. Oh, they say yawning is contagious. Here, this will be closed off. Here will be open. All right. So you're going to have to, oh, and it'll just have a beautiful tone. And you want it to where when you play just a single note, everybody's like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. And so you want to have that kind of a sound so that people will want to listen to you.